Now in the old days, the only way you could finance a vehicle was actually to do it via a dealership. But today, you can actually finance the vehicle yourself and manage the entire process. Today, we're going to talk about financing a vehicle privately with WesBank. At Wheel Index, we've done 5 deals this year with WesBank Private Vehicle Finance, so we know the process quite in detail. And we're going to explain everything that you need to know so that you can have a successful vehicle finance transaction. My name is Kurt from wheelindex.co.za, the place where South Africans go to do research when they are buying or selling a car. Now, before we get into the steps, I just need to bust the myth very quickly. And the myth is that you shouldn't buy a car from a private seller because you're just going to end up with a much worse car than you would have if you had to buy a car from a dealership. That is completely false. Dealerships and private sellers, they all sell vehicles that have been in accidents, that don't have full service history, or that have some mechanical issue lurking around the vehicle before you take ownership. Now, you need to do your own research, whether you're buying a car from a dealership or from a private seller. You need to check, take the VIN number, run it with a brand dealership. So if it's a BMW, you run it with BMW and you find out what's been done under the new car warranty, what's been done under the service plan. If it's a vehicle with a maintenance plan, what's been done under the maintenance plan. So you need to do your own homework to actually understand what's been done to this vehicle, what life has it had before you're going to buy this vehicle now. So you need to do that and not assume that the person who's selling you the vehicle has your best interest at heart. What you should also do, which we highly recommend, take the VIN number, punch it in on the Wheel Index vehicle history tool, create your report, and you'll be able to see, is the car currently listed as wanted by SA Police, what's the trade-in and the retail values, has the car had any accidents that have been claimed against the insurance, and all the other specifications of the vehicle you'll be able to confirm on that vehicle history report. Now, let's jump into the points. Point number 1, to start the process, you have to do it online. So you need to go to the WesBank website and you need to put in your personal details along with the details of the vehicle that you're interested in buying. And at the end of that process of completing the form, which should take you about 20 minutes, you'll be able to see green, you can qualify for the car, or red, you can't qualify for the car. Point number 2, as a buyer, you need to earn a salary of not less than 6,250 Rand a month, and you also need a proof of address and a valid driver's license. Now, requirements from the buyer as well is that the car that you're interested in buying shouldn't be older than 20 years and the price shouldn't be less than 30,000 Rand. So those are the only 2 minimum requirements that WesBank needs from the vehicle side. So it can't be older than 20 years and that the price is not less than 30,000 Rand. So point number 3, on the seller side, the seller needs to make sure that the seller sends all the required documents through to WesBank that they need. So that would be an invoice for the vehicle. That's very easy. WesBank will assist you with that. You also need to send through a copy of your ID and a copy of your address so that WesBank knows who you are. Then, as the seller, required documents that you also need to send through is a roadworthy test and a multi-point check. And we're going to talk about the details about that a little bit later. We'll actually jump straight into it. So point number 4 is the roadworthy and the multi-point check. Now, a roadworthy is a really basic test to assert that a vehicle is legal to drive on South African roads. And that will generally check things like the handbrake pulls up properly to the required height and that the car actually doesn't roll back when the handbrake is up, that the tread depth on the tire is actually the same thickness across the tire, and just all the basics that a car needs in order to be safe on South African roads. Now, a roadworthy test is not an exhaustive test, and unfortunately South Africa doesn't have very high standards when it comes to a roadworthy, and that's why WesBank requires you to have a multi-point check. Now, a multi-point check goes into much more detail, and I actually have a multi-point check here now from Mastercars, which is Volkswagen, and I'll quickly explain to you what's involved with a multi-point check. Now, this is an 80-point multi-point check, so we'll have the details of the vehicle, and then there's different categories here. So we've got engine, clutch, transmission, differential, suspension, steering. There's much more. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I'm just going to go over some of the points. Now, over here, we have a section where the tires have been noted that the spare wheel is 2 millimeters in thickness, the tread, and that you actually need a new tire. Now, those are things that a roadworthy check won't bring up. They won't bring up things like that. And another example here is that the brake pads is actually running low, and that this vehicle actually needs front discs and front pads. So that's a great thing about a multi-point check, is that you actually get a little bit more peace of mind, and you get a better idea of what the mechanical state is of the vehicle. And the diagnostic check is also part of a multi-point check. So the diagnostic check will just be a check to see, is there any errors on the ECU of the vehicle? Are there any sensors that's faulty, that's popping up on the diagnostic check? That's what that would cover. Now, we would recommend that you get the diagnostic check and multi-point check done at an actual brand dealership. So that means if you're going to buy a Kia, get the multi-point check done at a Kia dealership. Now, on WesBank side, they require that you do it at a Decra or at a brand dealership. We recommend brand dealership simply because when it comes to diagnostic part, the brand dealership will have the best equipment to diagnose any issues and see any issues on that vehicle. So that's that. On the roadworthy side, it just needs to be an AA approved roadworthy center. So there are hundreds or maybe thousands of them in South Africa. So you will have access to any roadworthy center. And once you have that multi-point check and that roadworthy, you just send that through to WesBank, and they will start the processing with the next step. Now, on the multi-point and the roadworthy, who's going to pay for that? So WesBank leaves that totally in your control. You as the buyer and the seller, you need to negotiate that. So normally what we've seen is that the seller would cover the roadworthy, which should be between 250 and 300 rand, and the multi-point check will actually be covered by the buyer. Now, a multi-point check at Decra nowadays is about 2,000 rand, and that's the same price for a multi-point check at a brand dealership as well. So you need to be mindful that you need to have that cash on hand to actually pay for that multi-point check. Point number 5, signing the documents and handing over of keys. Now, you've started this process online, and you're actually going to end it by signing it online as well. So what WesBank is going to do is they're going to send 2 links, one to the buyer and one to the seller. Now, those are unique links to you, and that actually contains the contract and all the details about the vehicle and all your personal details on there as well. They call it an I-contract. That's the name that they use. And you'll actually receive a unique PIN to access your URL. And once you're on there, you'll be able to confirm that all your details are correct. Your ID number is correct, the details of the vehicle is correct, the price is correct. So you must read that entire contract, both buyer and seller. And once you're happy, there's literally a checkbox that you're actually going to check. And that's how you sign the contract. So you're not physically going to sign a piece of paper. Now, on the payment side, once WesBank, they're happy with everything, they're actually going to start the payment side, and you're going to start talking to the seller of handing over of the keys. But before they do that, you actually need to hand over your original documents to a WesBank agent. So a WesBank agent will actually contact you, somebody who's working for WesBank, and you need to, as the buyer, you need to hand over your ID, your proof of address, along with your payslips. So you need to have copies for them with originals. So they're actually going to assert you are who you say you are and all your documents are correct. Now, I would think they would start this process at the beginning, but that's not how they do it. They actually do it at the end. So once the WesBank agent, they've got all your documents and they're happy, they're actually going to start the payout process with the seller. If it's WesBank to FNB, so that's the same bank, it's 12 hours to 24 hours. If it's a different bank, it would normally be 2 to 3 working days. So at that point, you can actually take ownership of the car, but some people selling their car would actually want the money reflected into the account and everything is cleared. So you must actually talk to the seller and just find out, but then can you take ownership of the car, or do they want the money to be cleared? So once WesBank has made the payment, they can send the proof of payment, and then you and the seller can talk about how you're going to go about handing over the keys, because WesBank actually leaves that process entirely up to you. Now, point number 6 is the timeline. So how long does this entire process take? Well, at Wheel Index, we've seen a deal that's taken from filling in the form online, point number 1, to actually having the keys and driving the car 4 days. That's how long it took. That's the shortest period that we've seen. But this process can actually take very long. It can take up to 2 to 3 weeks, and you need to have a little bit of patience if you're going to do WesBank Private Vehicle Finance, because it's definitely not as quick as buying it from a dealership. And where the delays will normally come in is actually when the car goes for the roadworthy, and let's say there's an issue. So let's say car goes for the roadworthy and the handbrake needs to be adjusted. So that's a comment that they made on the roadworthy, and they didn't pass the vehicle. So now the owner actually needs to get that sorted. The owner can either take it to a dealership to get it fixed, or any other mechanic that they can get it sorted. But if there are mechanical issues on the car, those issues first needs to be resolved. So same applies for the multi-point check. If the car goes for a multi-point check and there's a major issue that's being raised on the multi-point check, the owner will actually have to fix that car. Let's say there's a new part that they need to buy to fix the car. The part might not be available immediately, so the part needs to come. So most of your delays with financing a vehicle with WesBank is actually going to happen with a multi-point check and with a roadworthy. Now, if there's no issues with the car, a roadworthy test, that's really half an hour, and a multi-point check, that takes about 3 hours, both at DECRA and at a brand dealership. So that's really quick. And those are all the steps. And then there's some footnotes that I'm going to leave and mention to you, and that's with custom number plates. So if you are selling a vehicle with custom number plates, WesBank actually requires that you remove that number plate. You're not allowed to sell your car with this process with custom number plates. You must actually remove that, and then the buyer and the seller will actually make negotiations to actually who's going to pay for the new number plate. So that's what you need to keep in mind. And when it comes to the registration and the NATIS document, now it all depends how the person is actually who's selling the car, what's their ownership. Is it a finance vehicle, or if it's a vehicle that's actually owned outright? Now, if the vehicle is owned outright, WesBank will make arrangements with you to get the registration or NATIS document, as it's also known, from you. So they'll make that arrangements. If it's a vehicle that's financed, so let's say the vehicle is currently financed with a different bank, WesBank will actually reach out to that bank and they will get the registration document. So you, as the person buying the car, financing the car through WesBank, you become the owner of the car, but you're not the title holder. WesBank becomes the title holder, and they'll make sure they get hold of the registration document of the vehicle. Now, once everything is done, WesBank's actually going to register the vehicle into your name, which is quite awesome. That's one less thing for you to do. And all you need to then do is you just need to get a new license list. So they'll send you an email with a form, and you can just take that form to a traffic department, and you can pay up the license for the next 12 months, and then you sort it. That's the whole process. So with a little bit of effort and with a little bit of patience, you actually have a very, very, very big used car market available in South Africa. I mean, the fact that they finance vehicles up to 20 years old, I mean, that's really awesome. That means today I can go finance a 2003 model BMW E46 M3. Yeah, that's my type of car. So it's great stuff. You can actually finance any used car in South Africa that meet that two requirements. It mustn't be less than 30k, and the age mustn't be older than 20 years. And then lastly, what we've seen with WesBank is that they don't penalize you because you're financing a vehicle privately. They're actually giving very, very good rates to people who are buying vehicle privately. So don't think because you're going to buy from a dealership, you're going to get a better interest rate. It's all going to come down to your affordability and your credit profile. So if you have a great profile, you're going to get a great rate. You're going to get the best rate that you can get for yourself with WesBank. And that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this type of content. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel. My name is Kurt from wheelindex.co.za. Catch you back next time. Cheers.